Yo, what's going on? Welcome to another episode of the It's Needed podcast, where we discuss real issues involving law enforcement in the community. It's your boy Ryan Tillman, founder of Breaking Barriers United, and I am joined by the light-skinned wonder himself, Mr. Oh No, it's the Popo. What's up,
What's up, brother?
man? Chilling, bro. I am in your time zone, bro. We in the same time zone. It's like the first of all time.
Welcome to the cool kids time zone.
You crazy, bro?
And we just had a time change too, so it's like all out of whack.
Bro, this is the tired time zone, bro. Let me tell you that. I am tired.
Yeah, I tell you what, man. Anytime I fly out to like the West Coast and then I come back here, it's the only time it like does me. And it's so weird. Like even when I was in Spain, and the time change is way different out there. Like it didn't affect me like it did when like anytime I come to like Vegas, Cali, it tear me up.
Man, it is ridiculous. So I flew on yesterday. I left church. As soon as I left church, I hopped on a plane. It was about a 4-hour flight, and then when by the time I landed, it was like 8:30, and then by the time I got to my hotel, it was like 10 something. And then I was just tired, bro. Whole time change threw me off. So I woke up at like 10 o'clock this morning because I was like, shoot, that's like 7 o'clock my time. So anyways, yeah, I'm in your hood, bro. Well, kind of in your hood. I'm in ATL. So for all you guys listening in ATL. Shout out to you guys, Hot Atlanta. So I can't tell the viewers yet why I'm in Atlanta, but you guys will soon find out here. So pretty exciting stuff. But hey, before we get into it, make sure you guys hit the like button. Make sure you guys hit the subscribe button. We appreciate you guys and all the support you guys give to us. And it's weird, man. We don't have Billy here today. Billy is back at home. I told that sucker to hop on
us. Yeah, you see, he ain't even reply to that. He was just like, yeah, okay.
Yeah,
okay.
Exactly. So for all you guys watching, I told Billy, because Billy was like, well, you guys are in another area, so you guys gonna have to do this on the road. So I have some errands to run today. I'm like, wait, hold on, bro. You a part of this show too. What you mean you running errands all of a sudden? So
he hit you with the okie doke. Yeah, okay. I'll be there.
Yeah,
okay.
Exactly. So yeah, Billy played us. He should be on right now, but he's not. And you guys should have saw me and AJ trying to figure this thing out because Billy wasn't here.
Yeah, that's true. It did take us a good 15 minutes. You see, I got all different headphones. It's an embarrassing production without the Savage. But he would be proud of me because I was in Texas this past weekend and your boy channeled his inner cowboy. Like channel my inner cowboy. As a matter of fact, let me see if I know how to do this. Let me see if I can pull a Billy in. Can I upload something on here?
You try it. Hey, don't ruin us now. Don't ruin us. But it's funny because I saw your cowboy. I saw your cowboy picture. You posed that. You were over there looking like a light-skinned Tim McGraw.
Yeah, man. That's I was about to throw it up here. Let me see.
So we got Kentucky in the building. We got a whole bunch of Ohio in the building. Alfalfa, Georgia here. Is that's actually a city, Alfalfa?
That don't say no Alfalfa, bro. That say I don't know what that says.
Yeah, exactly. What does it say?
Alapaha?
Oh man. So
there we
go. got Massachusetts in the building.
There we go. Save the downloads. Massachusetts. I can't say that word. All right, here we go. Let me try to pull this up. So for people who Florida. Ain't watching right now.
Hey, so I'll be in Florida. I'll be in Florida in like 4 weeks. For my Michigan people, I'll be in Michigan in about 3 weeks. I don't got no Tennessee trip yet, and I don't have an NC trip planned yet. And I do have an Ohio trip planned. I'm gonna be out there with my boy AJ in August.
Yes, sir.
And I don't have a Canada trip. So yeah, shout out to you guys while AJ's pulling that up. Everybody that's listening to this in the car, we always appreciate you guys sticking with us. Man, I was actually thinking about that the other day. Bro, we've been doing this podcast for a minute, bro, like 2.5 years. Bro. And I pulled up the statistics, and the statistics show that, if you are doing like over 20,000 downloads a month, you're like in the top 5% of podcasts, and we're doing that.
Yeah, we're killing that.
Yeah, we're killing that. So shout out to you guys that are making this podcast so good. What I do want to see, though, what we haven't had in a while is we haven't had a lot of people go on our podcast and rate our podcast on Apple iTunes or Spotify and give us a review. So some of y'all lacking right now. I'm about to come find y'all. But yeah, that's what I haven't seen recently. So if you guys could, make sure you guys go onto the Apple iTunes, Spotify, give us a like, and make sure y'all give us some feedback on what y'all like most about this podcast, because we appreciate it, and it does help us get better.
Yeah. I might not be able to pull it up. It's not gonna let me. Like I might have to have like some sort of secret access or something like that.
Is it a picture?
It is.
Send me the picture. I'll do it. I'll do it.
All right.
I'll channel my inner thought. So, but anyway, so as you do that, let's dive into some topics, man. Some current events. So, I don't know about you, but if you're like me, I've been watching the news daily, just like kind of keeping in with this Ukraine thing, and bro, it's making me nervous. Like I feel like every day we are getting closer and closer to a nuclear war, like which is very unsettling. I don't know about you, but that's how I feel.
Yeah, man, it's getting real scary, especially because now China is like, I read something yesterday that China refused to condemn his behavior. So that's a huge red flag to me because there's already been speculations between Russia and China teaming up to kind of kick this bad boy off. So, um,
Bro,
I hope we're ready. That's all I want to say is like I hope we're
bro,
ready. I believe in America. I believe in like the American people. Um, but we're in interesting times right now. Like we've allowed ourselves to be more divided than ever, really. Like is everything divides us right now, whether it's race, political affiliation, sexual orientation, like you name it. Like we just can't see eye to eye on like anything right now. Um, so I just hope that we're able to band together as we have in the past, if need be, during this time.
you're absolutely right, and that's what's scary about it. And so when you're dealing with somebody like Putin is a psychopath. Like by
Yes.
definition, he is a psychopath. And when you're dealing with somebody like that, it's scary because you don't know what he's trying to do. And even everybody that's dealt with Putin in the past has said that this is a Putin that they've never seen before. And
Hmm.
so that's what freaks me out is that at any given moment, we've all, what's crazy is we've all had nuclear weapons. Everybody's had nuclear weapons for a long time, and and nobody's used them, which has been great. But when you're
Right.
dealing with a sociopath, a psychopath, one can only imagine that they're just waiting for an opportunity to give them reason to use it. And then especially there's a lot of people that don't like the United States, China and Russia to name a few. And so because they're not necessarily fans of the United States and the fans of the democracy that we have, it makes you think like it's only a matter of time before they try to press us on that. And the scary thing is that if China and Russia were to team up and it came to some type of nuclear warfare, where will we all stand in that? And then right now,
Yeah.
I've been hearing talks of, Putin utilizing unconventional weapons. So if Putin
Hmm.
utilizes unconventional weapons, like what do you call it, toxic weapons or whatever they're called, it almost seems like it's going to force the hand of the United States, NATO, to get involved into something that we don't necessarily want to be involved in.
Yeah. I don't know. It's very unsettling, and I wish I was more privy to like just politics in general, but more so like everything that was going on. But just seeing his behavior and how he don't care, especially like these large companies like McDonald's and Nike, and who was the real big one that kind of like blew my mind? Apple. Apple was like, we shutting it down. We ain't doing nothing in Russia. Like they're pulling like internet services and like they're not like it's scary. Like, and he don't care. Like it's the crazy part about it. Like he sees essentially the world standing against him. He's like, yeah, I don't care. But what is refreshing is Ukraine seems to be giving him the business right now.
Bruh, bruh.
So, come over here if you want to,
Yeah,
but it's gonna be some
exactly.
problems. Like, you know what I mean? Like, and that's kind of like, and I know that's probably like a very ignorant statement because I don't know,
No, it's true
everything.
though.
Plus, we could be getting spoon fed this stuff. So I have to be careful there too because I'm like, is this really what's going on, or is
Well,
this
you
what they
just
want us to kind of
we don't
see?
know what to believe now, and that's what's sad is we don't know what to believe anymore. We don't know,
Hmm.
if the headlines are true, the headlines are false. I mean, think about it. They've been putting up false headlines for law enforcement stuff for Lord knows how long. So I mean, if we can't believe the own headlines here in the United States, I mean, how are we going to believe
Yeah,
some of the headlines that come out? But yeah, you're right. I agree. It appears that Ukraine is giving Russia the business, which is making Putin that much more desperate because they weren't expecting the amount of pushback. What kind of takes me into another topic, which has been a controversial topic, but the Second Amendment, the right to bear arms, and
yeah.
what's interesting is that if we're talking about this war that's going on over there, when it first started, there was a lot of Ukraine officials that were giving weapons out to people, so that way they can defend themselves. And
Mm-hmm.
it seems like that Ukrainians didn't have access to weapons freely like we do here in the United States, which is why
Yeah.
they were giving weapons out to people so they can fight back. Now,
Yeah.
just imagine if they would have had those weapons like we have in the United States. Would there be that much desperation to try to get as many guns into the hands of the civilians to fight back if they had
Mm-hmm.
already had them? So now, don't get me wrong. I'm not saying that we should be making it super, super easy for people to obtain guns that shouldn't own guns. But what
Yeah.
I am saying, though, is that people try to infringe upon that Second Amendment, that right to bear arms, so much so that, I mean, what if we did have a situation where we needed to defend our homes? If we, at least if we know that people already have weapons in their possessions, is going to make the resistance that much stronger. And that's what I was watching some type of documentary on something, and they were saying that that's the stuff that a lot of these countries don't account for, is the opposition that they have faced just by the civilians in the communities that own weapons. So I'm
Yeah.
telling you now, you come down my block, you're gonna have a little resistance coming back your way. You're gonna have some zingers coming back, like, oh snaps, these fools
Yeah,
are shooting
man.
back.
Yeah, it's I don't know if you've ever seen the map, but it's a map of the US and it kind of breaks down like
I
which
saw that.
areas will be the worst. And it's like, you go to like New York or Chicago, good luck, right? But then you come down to like Ohio, Kentucky, West Virginia, like good luck.
Bruh.
Florida, you got Florida, man.
You got
Cali, you know what I
Cali.
mean? Yeah, I mean it's just you got LA alone, right? Like, so yeah, you go run into some opposition, and the chances are we know how to use these bad boys better than you do. So come and I think we're spoiled in the fact, and maybe not even in a bit that like, there's never at least in our lifetime been confrontation on our soil. Like ain't nobody ever came over here starting nothing, and it's probably for the best. Um, but I think we're very lucky in that aspect to where some people don't have that comfort. Like some people live day to day, like it could like think about Poland for instance, right? Like it could spill into Poland any day, right?
Well, I mean, I would imagine if I was living in Poland right now, I'd be pretty scared because Russia's just looking for a reason. They're just looking for a reason to expand their reach beyond Ukraine. If you ask me,
Yeah,
you know what I mean. And so like that's what's freaking me out. Is what can happen next. And then what's funny is I was on the plane last night and I didn't realize this. I was looking at the how like when you fly, it will show you where you're at in the air, like on a map. And
yeah,
so
yeah.
like I was like zooming out just to kind of look at, because I'm terrible with geography. I'm not gonna lie to you. So I was like, oh,
Hmm.
let me see where Russia's at. I didn't realize how Russia, and I knew that uh, that Russia was on the Asian continent, but
Hmm.
I didn't realize how it bordered China. Like I didn't
Yeah,
realize like by land. I didn't realize that. So I was like, oh,
yeah.
no wonder they're so close to each other.
Yeah, yeah, it's it's definitely somebody said, "Oh, Pearl Harbor." Yeah, that was before my time. I was talking about like in my lifetime. But someone said, "Do we have a Discord server?" I don't know what a Discord server is, but you make it sound convincing like we need one.
I
Like
know. I don't know what
it's
that
kind of
is
like
either.
saying that you got a gun. If not, I could get you
I
one. That's kind of
know.
how you saying that. So if we
I
need it,
know. I don't know
maybe
what
we
it
could
is.
talk.
Please put that in the comments because yeah, I'm not sure what that is either. But let's transition. So I want to talk about a specific topic today, and maybe you guys can chime in with whatever questions. So did you see the video recently where the Black Panther, uh, I don't want to call him a nationalist because I don't think he's a nationalist,
He's
but
like
he's
the director or
or he's
producer
an
of Black
actor,
Panther.
or yeah, or activist or something like that. Yeah. Or was he like from the movie? Is that what it is?
Yeah, yeah. He
Okay,
was
yeah.
like the director or producer of Black Panther.
Yes. Okay. So he walks into the bank and he slides a note to the bank teller
Hmm.
to get $12,000 out. And so Daniel said, "Hey, what up, Daniels? We got to bring you in here." He said he's pretending to know geography. Um, so he slides this note underneath to get $12,000 out. Now the branch manager, somebody within the bank, thinks that he's robbing the place. So you
Hmm.
have an officer responds. Now you have an officer responding to what's believed to be a robbery in progress. So he
Yeah.
responds, and it just so happens that it looks like the officer is black himself. So he unholsters his gun, and then he puts his gun back in his holster right away, and then he walks the guy out. Now when they walk him out, they handcuff him, they sit him in the back seat of the car, and it sounds like they even go and detain his wife shortly after. Now Understandably so. This guy, well, let me give you guys a little bit more of the backstory. This guy was not robbing the bank. So let's just throw that out there. He was not robbing the bank. Understandably so, he's upset, especially because his wife is being detained as well in handcuffs, I'm assuming. If I don't know if it's not in handcuffs, I do know for sure that she was being detained. And so I first and foremost, I want to commend him on how he handled the situation and not making it a bigger deal right there on the spot than he could have. Because I can understand why a person would be upset if you were legitimately there on business purposes to get money out and all of a sudden you're handcuffed.
Yeah.
But this is one of those situations where it's almost like the perfect storm. So handing a teller a note saying you need $12,000 is very suspicious.
And like it said, be discreet. Like the letter said, like be discreet or something to that effect.
It is very suspicious. Now I understand, and I was on a live last night, and I understand why a guy might do that. And the reason he might do that is because if you're pulling that much money out, you know what I mean? Like you don't want everybody to know your business, especially there's these things that are called follow or takeaways or follow homes or whatever they're called, where people will follow you from a distance. They know you pulled a large amount of money out and they'll follow you home and then rob you. Yep. So I could understand why a person would do that. But in historically speaking, we see these type of things happen all the time where they're legitimately armed robberies that happen, and you send the teller a note, show them a note, and say, "Hey, give me as much money as you can." So that's why the teller may believe that they're being robbed. Now, police they don't have no other knowledge than to just think like, shoot, like we going in here. This is the description of person. I arrive on scene. He matches that description. So shoot, there's something going on. So we're going to respond accordingly, and we're going to detain this dude and pull a weapon out, because especially if you think it's an armed robbery. So the reason I say it's like a perfect storm is because I don't necessarily think that there was anybody in the wrong here. This is just, now, again, I haven't gone and read all the headlines or what the departments have put out and stuff like that. So I will give you guys that disclaimer. But I mean, if you have a person I can see why a teller would think that somebody's robbing the place, and a lot of people use that as race bait, because they're saying, "Oh, you can come use my bank without having to feel like you're robbing." What I tell people all the time is, you're better safe than sorry. It's better to assume than to not assume, and you are actually getting robbed.
Yeah. And I think the police handled it as well as they can. So Asia just asked a comment. She said, "Aren't police obligated to do a thorough preliminary investigation before detaining someone? I know it appeared a certain way, but doesn't mean he was acting unlawful." You're right. It doesn't mean he was acting unlawful. But let me give you a scenario. You're walking down the street and you see Ryan shoot me, and then he grabs a gun and puts it in his waistband, and the police show up, and you go, he did it. He has a gun in his waist. You would probably want that officer to grab me and detain me based off of you giving that firsthand knowledge, because we clearly can't be everywhere. So that's what allows us to detain people. And that's the difference between a detainment and an arrest. Correct. Ryan, you wouldn't be arresting Ryan in that circumstance. You would simply be detaining him, which is much less. You're not taking away his freedom. You're not taking him to jail. You're not charging him with anything. You are doing the thorough investigation. That's part of doing the thorough investigation. So if a bank calls you and says, "Hey, I'm being robbed," we're going to come in with long guns, shotguns, rifles, our guns out. We're going to detain pretty much everybody inside the bank. We're going to find the person that's in the bank that matches that description. And then we're going to go from there and continue with our thorough investigation. So with that said, I think that the officers did a good job. They didn't run in, tackle the guy, put a gun in his face, anything like that. They said, "Put your hands behind your back." He kind of turned around confused, like, "Put my hands behind my back." He saw it was serious. He immediately put his hands behind his back. And he was upset, rightfully so. But like you said, it's the perfect storm. And if someone's going to be upset about anything in this situation or towards anybody in this situation, they should be upset at the bank or the teller. But even then, it's kind of like one of those situations, like what you did was kind of sketchy. Like they don't see that on your average day. But on the other hand, if I was withdrawing $12,000, I wouldn't want you being like, "Okay, Anthony, here goes your $12,000 in cash." Like, hey, chill, So I get it.
If it was me, they were like, "Okay, Mr. Tillman, here goes your $5 that you wanted out of the bank, because that's all I got up in there." But back to Asia's point, and to add on to what AJ's saying, is that part of the preliminary the reasons we do preliminary investigations is because we don't really know what we're investigating. And
Yeah.
so that kind of goes into the aspect of the detention is why we do detentions. So when you're talking about this scenario, usually officers are operating on very limited information. They usually have a suspect description. They have a belief that there's somebody robbing the bank. And so you have to handle it accordingly. And so it's better for us to be more safe than sorry. Sorry in this scenario would be, hey, sir, we believe that you're robbing the bank. And this guy's actually robbing the bank, and he turns around and shoots the officer or pulls a gun
Yeah.
out.
Yeah.
Operating in a safe manner is like, hey, sir, do me a favor. I'll tell you why I'm here in a minute, but let me go ahead and handcuff you and take you out of this place, and then I'll explain to you what's going on. I tell people all the time is like, look, just as fast as I can put handcuffs on you, I can take them out. I can take them off that fast. It sucks. Don't get me wrong. People view handcuffing people as being very demeaning, and it's embarrassing. And you're right. You're right. I mean, if it was me, I would feel embarrassed and stuff like that. But sometimes there's things that we can't control. And there's been enough times in law enforcement where we've seen things go south because the officer wasn't operating with a level of caution that he should have. And
Yeah.
so I always err on the side of, hey, I would rather have more caution and be able to explain to you, hey, sir, this is why I detain you. This was a call for service. Somebody called in and said, hey, look, there's somebody potentially robbing the bank. He looks like this. He's wearing this. And we need you to get here fast. So we come here, we see you, you fit the description. And so that's why we brought you out, because we believe that you might be armed and dangerous. But hey, everything checks out. You're rightfully here pulling $12,000 out. You and your wife are just minding your own business. Please forgive us for this misunderstanding. We could talk about it with the bank. At least if you do it that way, everybody goes home safe. Everybody goes home safe. You know, you never have to second guess whether or not you're going to make it home away from a police encounter or not, because everybody cooperated. And that's what I was so impressed with by this gentleman, is because he complied. How many times have AJ and I talked about how, if you just comply, you'll be able to make it home safe? And we had Tam on our podcast a long time ago, and he said it best. He said, look, the time of the stop is not the place to argue. And this gentleman understood that concept at the time of this event.
Yeah. What's this say? I would call ahead and talk to a banking rep and jot down their name to get guidance and give a heads up. Too many robberies these days in banks and parking lots, etc. Mavens, small towns now. Yes, most of that information is gathered during the call. Like when someone calls 911, they normally leave their name, phone number, and all of that. And that also changes how we respond. So if I call 911 and I go, hey, there's a light-skinned male black with a red hat and red headphones on in Atlanta with a gun in this hotel room, or walking down the street, they ask for my name and phone number, and I'm like, nah, I don't want to give you that. The officers are going to respond differently to where if I go, oh, my name is Officer AJ, and this is my phone number, because then I become more of a credible witness. So you have to keep that in mind as well. And I like what you said, because that's a valid point. Like, no one got hurt in this situation. So, like, as unfortunate as the situation was, no one got hurt. Like, everyone did what they were supposed to do accordingly. You know, if you work at a bank and you think you're getting robbed, you're going to hit the panic button. You're going to call 911. You're going to signal somebody to call 911, right? If you're withdrawing $12,000 in cash and you don't feel like getting robbed, you might say, hey, slide that. Like, don't make it. Be discreet with it. I don't want the whole bank to know. If you're a police officer and you get a call that someone's robbing a bank, you're going to go in and handle it how you did. Like, everyone did what they were supposed to do, and the system worked exactly how it was supposed to work.
Yep, exactly. So that's a good segue to talk about how we should act if you've ever been encountered with law enforcement. Real quick before we do that, Asia said, but you're always going to have a person who wouldn't comply and think it's malicious. That's why it's important for officers to continue to build positive interactions with the community they serve. Asia, you're absolutely right. Actually, I always say something, and AJ's heard me say this many times before, but we have to get to know the community before we have to know the community. It's about making positive deposits into the community. So when we need these withdrawals, these positive withdrawals, we can make those withdrawals, and the community comes to our support. So you're absolutely right. But that's a good segue into how do we act if you are encountered by law enforcement, whether it be on a traffic stop or whether you be out and about at a bank, and somebody says you fit the description. I mean, AJ, tell me what you think we should do, or if there's a civilian watching this, what they should do in order to avoid any type of confrontation or avoid some confusion where an officer thinks that you're reaching for a gun or grabbing for a weapon.
So if I'm walking down the street and someone called and said I fit the description of doing something,
Correct.
I mean, I hate to be like this simple, but you have to comply. Like the only time that it's not appropriate to comply is if you feel like your life is in danger. Like legitimately, not this new age. I'm scared of the police. I feel like my life is in danger every time they're around. But legitimately fear, like the officer is slamming you on your head, punch you in the, you know, what I mean, like something like that, right? Like other than that, like you have to comply. Like if you want this interaction to go accordingly, the same way that this bank incident did, like that's what you have to do. Like you have to realize that things are serious. And that's what I like about the body cam footage is during the initial interaction, you hear the officer say something to the effect of put your hands behind your back. And as he's turning around, he goes, put my hands behind my back. Like, you know, he's kind of like, what are you talking about? But then he realizes this is serious. And what's he do? He puts his hand behind his back. It doesn't matter if he's not robbing the bank. You know why? Because he didn't lose his life. He didn't get beat up. He didn't get maced. He didn't get tased. He didn't get slammed on his head. He didn't get drug out the bank and embarrassed in front of the whole world. Like he put his hands behind his back. He was placed in handcuffs. He was detained. And he went home at the end of the day. The officers went home at the end of the day. Like no one was hurt. So if you're stopped, if you're walking down the street and an officer pulls up on you and says, hey, stop, that isn't the time to go, for what? I do nothing. Blah, blah, blah. Like you don't know what just happened. Like someone who's wearing what you're wearing or close to what you're wearing could have just killed somebody. And I guarantee you, if that somebody was your mother, your wife, your child, your loved one, your husband, you will want everybody in that area who matches that description stopped and detained properly. And you can't tell me you wouldn't. So
Absolutely.
go with the go with it. Go with it. Stop. I'm gonna stop. Put your hands behind your back. Put your hands behind your back. You have the right. I want to put this caveat out there because I always do. I feel it's important. You have the right to record police, but what you know, Anthony Johnson don't want to see you do is when an officer says, "Hey, stop," you aggressively reach in your pocket to pull your phone out to start recording. Because in my mind, when you aggressively reach in that pocket, a phone's not coming out. A gun
Yep.
is, a weapon is. So keep that in mind as well.
No, you're so right on that, and that's what I wanted to get at is like, a lot of people say, well, what should I do? I pulled somebody over probably about 3 weeks ago, and when I walked up to his car, he was saying like, he had his hands out his window just like this. So he had his hands out of his window, and I was like, hey, do me a favor, how you doing, sir? This is why I pulled you over, and you could tell he was probably a little bit in fear. I mean, and I don't know. And the sad thing is, I don't know if a lot of that fear is caused by just the media in general, which it's a high likelihood, or
Yeah.
there's a fear because he's had some bad interaction with law enforcement. But either way,
Yeah.
it doesn't matter. There was some type of level of fear there. So he was like, hey, I'm going to tell you exactly everything I do. So that way there's no confusion. So I said, hey, do you have your license? He said, yes, my license is in my pocket. I'm going to grab it now. Then he went on and said, I said, hey, do you have insurance for the vehicle? Yes, the insurance is in my glove box. I'm going to open it now. And honestly, even though there might be officers that may get annoyed, like, okay, because sometimes people will do it just because there have been people in the past that are just trying to be, over dramatic. And I don't want people to be insensitive what I'm saying right now, because some
Yeah.
people are going to be
Nah,
like,
some people lay it on thick. Yeah, you're right.
yeah, some people are going to be like, oh, you know what? Like you're being insensitive. Like I'm not being insensitive. There's just people that really want their recording. And so they're trying to be, create a viral video, but there are
Yeah.
like legitimately people that are scared out there. And so irregardless, for me as the officer, it doesn't matter, because my job is not only to make sure that I'm clear with why I pulled him over, but my job is to make sure that he has a good positive interaction with me at the end of the day. So
Yeah.
once I went back to my car, or actually I told him, I said, hey man, I appreciate you for telling me what you're doing. I assure you, man, as long as you continue to cooperate with me, man, you have nothing to worry about. He was like, okay, cool. So I went back to my car, ran his information, went back to his unit or his car, and I gave him a warning for the situation. And I said, hey man, just do me a favor, slow down. A lot of people are getting hit out here running through red lights. But it was a good positive interaction that I had with this individual that he'll be able to take back. And so he'll never be able to say that there's not a good police officer out there, because he can always say, hey, no, I actually had a
Mhm.
decent interaction with a police officer. But going back to, what you do if you're ever detained, man, just listen to what the officers are telling you to do. Like like AJ said, I hate to sound so simple, but that's what it comes down to. And you have those. Somebody left a message on one of my pictures or videos last week,
Mhm.
and they said they actually sent me an email. Man, I wish I if I could read it. And it's funny. He's like, we don't necessarily. I don't. As a citizen, we don't have to. I don't have to listen to anything that that officers say. Like that's it's my God given right to not have to listen to you if you don't have any reasonable suspicion to
Mm,
pull me over.
mm,
Man, I think I
okay.
did. Hold on one
And
second.
that's how you end up slammed on the ground. Like, I hate to be that direct, but that's how you end up getting pulled out of a window, slammed on the ground, tackled, tased, maced. That's how it happens right there.
Exactly. And that's what I was gonna get at is like, look, officers have a job to investigate. That's what we are paid to do. So it always baffles me when people say, "Oh, well, you need probable cause. If you don't have no reason to stop me, then you
Mhm.
can't talk to me." And I always ask the question, well, how do you know what I'm stopping you for if you don't even let me talk to you? How do you even
Right.
how do you even know whether or not I have reasonable suspicion or probable cause to stop you if you're
Yeah.
not listening? You won't
Yeah.
know that unless you listen to what I have to say. And so this is what I actually found the email. So he said this. He said, "Hello, I would like to say that I came across video on Facebook page that is preaching citizens to let police willfully violate their rights and law. I am here to say that citizens have a right and that police officers are not a judge, jury, or executioners. So by preaching or making videos that send a clear message to citizens that if they don't comply, they will be murdered as unlawful activity," which I don't never remember
What
seeing
video
something
he
like
talking
that.
about?
Yeah, exactly. I'm still trying to figure that out. Then he went on to say, if a police asks a citizen something, it is considered a consensual encounter, which the citizens don't have to legally respond, and that's the law. Unless a police
Mm.
can articulate reasonable suspicion of a crime that the citizen in question has committed or is committing, then the police cannot detain merely on suspicion alone, which we can detain on suspicion. Your videos, many of them preach about if citizens don't comply, they will be murdered, which I don't know what video I've ever posted that's preaching to be
Ah,
murdered,
that's
beaten,
that
and
Discord you
arrested.
got.
I guess so. Yeah, me will be murdered, beaten, arrested. Also, many of your videos express citizens to willfully or willingly give up their rights to a consensual encounter without or which is not legally binding. So my first question is like, where do you get this info from? Like, because
Mhm.
that ain't the laws that I follow. First of all, second of
Right.
all, is like I think people when they start throwing out consensual encounter or detentions, they start thinking that they're a little bit more articulate or smart in this area than they really are
Yeah.
without knowing
Yeah.
what it actually means.
Yeah.
But go ahead, AJ. I know you're thinking.
I I mean, that's how you get slammed. That's how you get tased. That's how you get maced. That's how you get pulled out of a window, and then you be mad. Well, I don't know. He ain't had a right to do that. Like, nah, I did. If I pull a car over and I'm like, "Hey, step out of the car," I don't gotta get out the car. Okay, I'm gonna ask you one more time. Matter of fact, I'm gonna tell you, get out of this car. I don't gotta boom you out the window. Like I ain't got time to be going back and forth with you because one, you don't know what I know. Right? Like I think you could be in a stolen car. I could have got a call from a confidential informant, another officer saying that you have a gun on you. You could be suspected of a violent crime. You could be known to run officers over or flee. Like I'm not about to play with you. Like, and that's the difference. Like that's the easiest way for me to say it is know when it's time to play and know when it's time to not. And a majority of times when an officer is on scene in an authoritative capacity, it's not time to play. It's not time to play. I'll be the first one, and the whole world knows this. I'll be the first one to go out and play basketball and joke around with people. And I don't care what area of town I'm in. I don't care what the people look like, the demographic, the social status, the income of that area, how high of a violent crime area it is. Like I don't care about none of that. I'll get out. I'll joke around with people, but you need to know when I'm done playing, and I'll make it clear for you. Where you'll see the change of tone. You'll see the change in my demeanor. You'll see the difference between me asking you to do something and telling you to do something. And it's not time to play. Like when I show up on scene and I'm being real with you and I'm telling you to do something, I ain't got time for all that. Like I ain't got time to be playing with you. I ain't got time to be going back and forth. You know why? Because that's when people get hurt. That is when people get hurt. So if I gotta grab you and slam you on the ground and then put you in handcuffs, that's what I'm gonna do. Because if I don't and you do something and I end up pulling a gun out, somebody's really gonna end up getting hurt. Or if you pull a gun out or whatever, like we don't know. We see things escalate so many different ways, so many different times. We ain't
Yep.
got time for that. It's not playtime.
Exactly. So Asia said, I think a big misconception is officers believe everyone is knowledgeable in how to deal with the police, which
Mm.
isn't true. So you have officers who are extremely demanding when just giving clear, respectful direction would help de-escalate. This varies, of course, depending on the situation. And Asia, you're right to an extent, and I say to an extent for this reason. You're right because uh, it is it is in the best interest for officers and everybody involved for us to de-escalate. No doubt about it. We should try to de-escalate if we can, and sometimes we do that with our voice. The only part I would say that is a little off or a little wrong is that if an officer is giving you a direction, whether it's being yelled at or whether it's being in a nice manner, listen to what he's saying or
Yeah.
or what she's saying, because sometimes the citizens, majority of the times, don't have the luxury of knowing why we are stopping them, unless you know you're the one that committed the crime. You know what I mean? If you're the committed the crime, you know exactly why officers are stopping you. You just trying to play dumb because you just trying to act like you innocent. But
Right.
if you are legitimately innocent, like that guy was in the bank, listen to what they say. I don't care if and take what I'm saying, take it in context. I don't care if an officer tells you, listen to my effing instructions, listen to what they got to say, because it is more important for you to walk away from that situation and be able to complain to that officer supervisor later and say, hey, this officer told me to listen to his effing instructions and I didn't like it, but at least you're alive to talk about it. But we don't when we listen to they're saying because how the officer is talking to you, or you like the tone of voice, you think he has an attitude. That ain't the time and place to be arguing with that officer, because you don't know. And the reason I say it is because you got to understand that one, officers are human, and sometimes when we get certain calls for service, sometimes we get a certain call for service. It may be something that we have information like, hey, there was a homicide that was just committed, and this is what that person looks like, or hey, this person kidnapped, and this is what the person looks like. And if you just so happen to match that description, because we're human, we start getting all amped up because adrenaline is taking you there. And the first thing you do is you see a person and you're like, hey, drop the effing this or drop this or whatever it is, just because you're so amped up. Now, me
Yeah.
personally, I've tried to train myself. I don't really cuss that much. And I say that much because every now and again I'll make a slip. But I
Yeah.
train before I get to a situation, even in my mere speech. So that way, when I do react based off of adrenaline, I'm not reverting back to my cuss words. That's not my initial instinct, because I just
Hmm.
don't cuss in a lot of my conversation. But you have
Hmm.
officers that cuss in a lot of their speech, whether it's normal speech or whether it's hyped up speech. So if you better believe, if they get hyped up, one of their default reactions is going to be to cuss a person out, which that's just a normal humanistic response, whether you're an officer or not. And so it's so important to just listen to what they're telling you to do, as opposed to arguing with them because you didn't like the tone of voice that they told you to do something. And I think we have a tendency in the public to just start arguing because, oh, I don't like how you talking to me. Who do you think you are? Just because you got a badge and a gun that you can talk to me that way?
Right.
Figure out why they're talking to you first, and then you can make those arguments or complain to their supervisor later.
Yeah, it ain't the time to put your hurt feelings above people's safety. Like I get you getting cussed at, you getting yelled at. You don't deserve it, right? If I'm walking down the street and a cop pull up on me, be like, "Hey, put your effing hands up in the air!" Like I'll be like, "Dang, like, did you really have to come at me
Yeah,
like that?" Like,
exactly.
like in my mind, right? I'm gonna say that, but I'm putting my hands up, like,
Yeah, dog,
"Dang,"
what
but in
you
my head,
doing?
I'm be like, "Hey, you got to come at me like that." You know why? Because I'm not allowing my hurt feelings to dictate how this is going to go, at least during that moment. Now, afterwards, I might have to have a conversation with you
Absolutely,
or your
absolutely,
supervisor or internal affairs.
absolutely.
And these are all things you have access to, right? Like you're allowed to talk to a supervisor, you're allowed to call internal affairs, you're allowed to public records request the body cam footage and put it out there for the world to see. You're allowed to record. Like these are all things that you're allowed and entitled to. But once again, you have to understand, like, now ain't the time to play. Like now ain't the time to go back and forth. And I feel like so many people are used to being explained things. Like, well, you gonna explain that to me? Like, well, why did that happen? Why did you do this? No, explain to me why. And it's like, look, I'm not doing that. I'm not
Yeah,
doing that because, and I'll just speak as if you don't know how criminals work. That is how criminals work. If we roll up on a criminal that's actively doing something illegal that will more than likely put them in jail, what they are going to do is run, fight, or try to buy themselves more time so they could do 1 or 2, which was run and fight. And them buying time looks exactly like that. Well, hold on. Why are you stopping me? Wait, what's your name? Why I gotta
Yeah.
put my hands behind my back?
Yeah.
What you say? Huh? Like, I'm not doing all that.
Yeah.
I'm not letting you buy yourself time so you could come up with an escape route or wait for the perfect opportunity where I look down at my watch or reach in my pocket for my notepad and then you steal on me. Like, we're not doing that. I'm gonna
Exactly.
grab you. I'm gonna put you in handcuffs. I'm gonna tell you what to do. If you don't do what I tell you to do, then it's gonna go a different route.
Exactly. Now, Anthony said this, and I think it's really good to bring up. He said CIA, because he's talking. There's a conversation going back and forth if you're listening to in the car. But it says, "Are you saying that you cannot invoke your fifth in regards to general questions while detained or during a consensual encounter?" So let me be clear. In a consensual encounter, an officer, if you choose not to answer any question, an officer can't force you to answer those questions because it's consensual.
You can walk right away.
So you can walk right away. The officer, you can say, hey man, what's your name? What's your name? And he's like, I ain't got to answer that. And you'll know if it's a consensual encounter or detention
Mm-hmm.
because the officer is either gonna do one of two things. He's either gonna be like, all right, have a nice day, or he's gonna be like, hey, sir, I need you to stop right now and go ahead and sit down, or I need you to stop right now and talk to me. At that moment in time, you're gonna know whether or not this is consensual or detention. Because if
Yeah.
you say, hey man, I don't feel like telling you my name right now, he's just gonna let you keep walking. But if he
Yeah.
says stay down, you know it's a detention. And at that
Mm-hmm.
moment in time, if it's a lawful detention, you have the right to say, hey, sir, what are you detaining me for? That officer should in turn tell you exactly why he's detaining you. And then at that moment in time, you're obligated to answer some questions. An extension to that answer is this. Again, if an officer is asking you questions, yes, if you've done a crime, I'm not going to sit here and tell you to incriminate yourself. But at the same time, the reason the fifth is in place is so that way you don't incriminate yourself because you have the right to a lawyer and attorney. But the only ones that really got to really be worried about that are somebody that did something wrong.
Yeah.
So if you have done nothing wrong, if you know you've done absolutely nothing wrong, then why not just tell the officer what you're doing so you can get on about your business?
Yeah.
Like honestly, that's my thing is like if I know I absolutely did nothing wrong, then why not just answer the question? It's funny. As I'm in the hotel here, I'm watching some crime show. I don't know why I got it, but I watched some crime show, and it was like about murder investigations. And so as I'm watching it, the officers have been investigating this murder for like over a year, and the case is getting ready to go cold. So they got new information as to who this possible suspect was. So they showed up at his house because they didn't have enough. They didn't have enough information to go lawfully detain him, but they needed a DNA sample. So they knock on his door. They're like, and they actually knew who this guy was because it actually just so happened to be a former police officer. So
Mm.
they knock on this guy's door, and they're like, "Hey man, what's up, man? We have information that you might be involved in a homicide. All we need to do is get a DNA sample for you, man, and we can be on about our way." So the suspect, he's like, "Oh man, I don't really got time to give you one right now. I actually got to go. I got to bounce right now." Stalling, right? So the
Yep.
officer's like, "All right, cool, we leave." They leave. They call him up. "Hey man, we still need to get that DNA sample from you." The dude continues to say, "Hey man, I get it, man. This came up. This came up." So what the investigators realized, they said, "Look, that's not a common answer for somebody that didn't commit a murder. If I didn't
Mm-hmm.
commit a murder, you need to get a DNA sample. Like, yeah, shoot, here, swab me up right now.
Yep.
Boom,
Yep. You
there
need
it
some
is.
blood? I'll give you some
Yeah,
blood.
what you need? Like, go ahead and run that because my stuff ain't gonna turn up on it." The guilty person is like, "Oh shoot, man! Like, I gotta come up with an alibi. I gotta come up with something before I give these fools my DNA sample because they bound to get my DNA if they have something on me." And so what ended up happening was this officer ended up doing a swab, giving it to another officer somewhere else that he used to work for. And that officer he said, "Hey man, this guy came in and brought his own DNA sample down. Here it is." And the investigators were like, negative, like, we need to be there for that DNA sample. We're not about to just accept this DNA sample on merit. But the moral of the story is this, is that if you haven't committed a crime and you're absolutely positive you ain't committed a crime, then what's the harm in giving the officer your information so you can go on about your business? The officer's antenna, the suspicion antennas go up the moment you start trying to act and say, "Well, what do you need this for? Well, why are you asking this information? Well, why that?" Now it's like, okay, well, why are you avoiding all these questions? Now you're starting to really incriminate yourself because you're showing a level of suspicion.
Yeah, yeah. And that's so someone just commented, it's the same two people going back and forth in the comments right now. But somebody just said, I'm not referring to traffic stop, but even then, Can you not hand over your required documents and remain silent from there? Um, yes, but like my question to you is why? Like why do you not want to make this as easy as possible for everybody? And that's what normally happens is like, people go, I know my rights. I don't got to talk to you. And it's like, that's not that easy. Or I don't got to stop. No, you do, right? And then things go bad, and then people wonder why things went bad. So it's good, like in this setting, to ask the questions, but to have that mentality in the real world is not good. It's not good. Like we see it time and time again where we pull cars over and people crack the window this much, and I can't talk to you through the window, and they're trying to slide stuff through the window, and it's not working. Or like, well, I know my rights. I only have to roll this window down a half of an inch, and you can hear me through this because scientists said. And it's just like, once again, now is not the time to play. I'm not playing with you right now. Roll this window down, or are we gonna have a problem? Like, I have to talk to you right now. I have to effectively communicate with you in order to tell you what I need you to do, what I need you to not do, what I need you to hand me, where I need you to move, what I need you to do. And it's just like, so many people live in this realm of, well, what can I get away with? And
Yeah.
that's the mentality. What can I get away with in
Yeah.
a situation? Instead of, put your hands up. Where's
Yeah.
your ID? It's in my front right
Exactly.
pocket. Can I grab it? I'm
Yeah.
gonna grab it right now, nice and slow for you. Then afterwards, you can have that conversation. You might even be able to ask the police officer, depending on how the interaction went and how the officer's shift is going, how busy he or she is, if he has time to like stop and chit chat with you. Hey officer, if you told me to put my hands up and I didn't, what would have happened? Like those are the times they have those conversations, not during the interaction.
I think the way we get here is because I mean, and I'm speaking for the citizen that is legitimately, minding their own business and not doing anything wrong. I think the legitimate question for you becomes is like, well, why do I have to do this when I'm doing everything I'm supposed to be doing? And what you negate is the fact that there are people out there every single day that are not doing what they're supposed to be doing. And
Yeah.
so you start thinking like, man, I'm totally fine. And yes, you know that you're fine, but the officers don't know that. The officers don't know you. The first time they're interacting with you is, they don't know nothing about you. And so it's
Yep.
our job. Somebody said earlier in a preliminary investigation, it's our job as police officers to investigate. And during our investigation, that's where we start to determine and find out whether or not you are who you say you are or you're not who you say you are. And
Mm-hmm.
what you got to realize is that in our jobs as police officers, a majority of the people that we deal with on a day-to-day basis are lying to us.
Yeah.
And it's just a reality. So you can't get mad at the fact that, we're going to ask you questions trying to see if you are lying, because we're used to people lying to us because people are trying to get away from us. So that your best defense, if any, is just to listen to what the officers are saying. If you have nothing to hide, then say it. Now, if you're doing something that you're not supposed to be doing, then that's on you. Like that's
Yeah.
on that's where it gets fun for us, because now it's a matter of us playing cat and mouse. And now I'm gonna
Yeah.
see if I can get to that information without you realizing what's going on.
And think about this. I would say nationwide, overall speaking, for the entire country, we seen a spike in violent crimes, murders, rapes, homicides, property crimes. Like I think it's safe to say that the overall numbers are higher than normal. Okay. Also, during last year, I would say that staffing shortages throughout the profession of law enforcement are also higher than normal. There are a lot of departments who lost officers for whatever reasons. They're finding it difficult to find officers to apply, whatever. I know a lot of major cities that are very understaffed, right? Which is a bad combination, right? So you have one, high crimes, people committing crimes; two, not enough police officers to respond to that. Now, think about adding a third trick bag into that mix of every officer that's working, going back and forth answering these questions and dealing with people who don't want to talk during traffic stops, and going back and forth during the detainments, and how much time that would take away from the very few officers who have to respond to the abnormally high amount of crimes, what this year would look like.
Mm,
Ask yourself that question.
that's
So
deep.
when you develop this mindset, or when you walk around with this attitude of, I know my rights, I'm not going to do X, Y, and Z, which is fine. You're allowed to know your rights, and you don't have to do X, Y, and Z if you really don't have to. But when you play this game of, I'm going to hold this officer during this encounter much longer than I have to, and you really say that you care about the people, that's somewhat counterproductive and contradictory to what you're really saying and doing.
Yep, bro. That's a very very valid point. And if you're listening to us, take that in consideration when you're seeing all this stuff. So last question I'm gonna take um, says, do they teach police officers how to deal with those with mental illness or to identify someone suffering from mental illness? Just curious. So I'll answer it and I'll let AJ answer it. So yes, some training is better than others. I actually have a real life experience just recently. I went to a class on mental health, and then the second day of the class was specifically dealing with autism, children with autism or people with autism. And it was telling us all the different things that people that have autism or Asperger's do and how they cope and stuff like that. So the very next week, I was back at work and I went on a call for service, and I was dealing with about a 31-year-old gentleman who was autistic, high functioning autistic. And he was doing a lot of the things that they were saying in the class. He was doing his hands like this, which, if you don't know any better, if you see somebody doing their hands like this, it might freak you out. Like, well, okay, what's going on? But we learned it's a soothing technique. So we allowed him to do it. I asked, hey, do you want to sit down, buddy? He didn't want to sit down at first. So we just allowed him to stand. It came point in time where this autistic man has basically said he wanted to kill himself. And
Yeah.
so we knew that potentially putting handcuffs, which is how we usually transport, even if you are mentally ill or not, we might put handcuffs on you because for our safety and everybody else's safety. But we knew that that might set him off or might trigger him. So we got to talk to dad. Hey, we asked him, hey, is this going to trigger, or is this going to trigger your son if we put handcuffs on him? He said it might. So then we thought outside the box. We said, you know what we're going to do? If you're good with it, Dad, would you mind riding in the back seat of our police car with us if it will keep him calm? And Dad said, I absolutely don't mind that. So we transported the guy down to the mental health hospital with Dad in the back seat of our patrol car, and it kept him calm the whole time. We're
Yeah.
talking to him, we get him out of the car, and so I bring this example up is because going to these training classes, talking about these things, helped me as the officer and my partners be able to address that situation with that autistic man, as opposed to not picking up on key signs of when he's doing this or not wanting to sit down. I mean, imagine if I hadn't gone to training and not realized this guy was autistic and I'm telling him to sit down and he doesn't sit down. One might take that as being like, oh man, he's not complying with my instructions. What's going on? But
Yeah.
because we were able to recognize these things and talk about it, that's what helped us be better as police officers. So when we talk about how do we improve as officers, we improve by going to different training classes like that, taking it serious, and being able to pick up on those cues in the future. So to answer your question, Asia, yes, we do training, and it could be better for some officers. But I do know a lot of departments are addressing those now because we do want to perfect our craft.
Yeah, I'd say a majority of police departments, at least here in the United States, has some sort of training around mental health, and whether it's CIT, I mean, you name it. There's all sorts of training that we go through year round. I don't care how long you've been on the police department, you still have to go through in-service training and get caught up on like all your legal updates, and um, most departments have advanced training from that. So to answer your question, yes. Yep.
Yeah, that was great. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna transition to the end of the podcast right now. I know we're gonna kind of go back real quick.
Look
So
at him. There he is. Woo!
uh,
That's a good looking cowboy right there. That
hey,
first off, okay, let me share this story with you, okay?
please do. If you guys are listening to this in the car, I just put up a picture right now of AJ in his cowboy jumpsuit.
Okay, so let's cowboy jumpsuit. All right, first off, I got the boots. All right, they are genuine full quill ostrich boots from Luke Casey. All right, very proud of them. I had those before Texas. So in my mind, when I went to Texas this past weekend, I was gonna do one or two things. I was either gonna buy a belt to match, like an ostrich belt or something to match, or I was gonna buy a cowboy hat. So we end up at the saloon, a legit saloon Friday night. And we're out introducing the my buddy who flew us out there. He's introducing us to like different people. He introduced me to the bar owner. His name is Buck, and he is a real life cowboy. They in there doing line dances. I ain't never seen nothing like this a day in my life. All right. There was one black person in the bar and they was in there getting it. I'm talking like in step. It blew my mind. I didn't know any of the dances. So I'm talking to this cowboy. He's a real life cowboy. And I'm like, hey, I either want to buy a belt buckle or a belt or a hat. He goes, well, hold on 1 second. He's like, show me your shoes. I show him the shoes. He's like, you got you a pair of little cases. Like, okay, that's good. He's, let me introduce you to people. So he gets like 3 other people around. We start talking. And he goes, this young man wants to know whether he should get a belt or a hat. And they all start laughing. They're like, you got to get a hat. Like belts are earned, especially belt buckles. Like you don't go out and buy one. So I'm like, okay, what kind of hat do I get? And they got me hip. I didn't know there was this much that go into it. They're like, you got to go to this specific place and get a hat. Tell them Buck sent you. And you could get a felt hat, but you're going to pay a little bit more for them. They're winter hats, or you could get you a straw hat. Those are warm weather hats, and they're a little bit more casual. You could get a black straw hat because that's what the younger people are doing nowadays. So literally the next day, I woke up early. I went to this store, Cavender's, something to that effect. And I got the hat, and that was the next day at the gala, the fundraiser we were at. So your boy is a cowboy. I got boots and a cowboy hat. So bing, giddy on up,
bruh. So let me ask: is that all that giddy up pretty expensive? I would imagine.
Well, I'm not gonna talk about how much the boots cost. We just gonna leave that. My wife watches the podcast. So, the hat. So the reason I didn't get a felt hat, I should have gotten a felt hat because it was like a dress up event. The felt hat was $300. I put one on. I was like, man, it looks good. It was black. It felt good. It was $300. So I was like, yeah, I can't do this. So then I saw this straw hat that had like a black trim around it. It was $40. So I was like, okay. And it was the brand they told me to get, like this like brand of hats that just real cowboys wear. So yeah, I went and got that hat. It's $40. And then people were making comments like, you should have showed with a felt hat. And I'm like, you got $300 you could give me?
Bruh.
Well, all right then.
Well, man, I'm out to one of these days when I'm in Dallas. I'll be in Dallas in a couple of weeks. Maybe I have to get something out there and send my best cowboy look when I get out there. So.
Yeah. Don't go to Luke Casey. Get you a cowboy hat. You go walk in there, you're gonna be like,
yeah, exactly. So hey, real quick, I do have one else to go for us. I don't have the slides like Billy usually puts up for your boy. I just came up with this on the fly. So social media. Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, or YouTube?
Oh, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, or YouTube?
No. I didn't say Twitter. Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, or YouTube?
That's tough.
Very tough. That's why I asked.
That's tough. Because I watch music videos on YouTube, on the TV. That's all I do all day is listen to like worship music, YouTube videos, how-to videos. TikTok is just addicted. You scroll through TikTok all day. So it's down to
and you have to consider the monetization aspect of it.
Yeah, so you can monetize and make a lot of money on Facebook and YouTube. I'm gonna say Instagram gotta go. Instagram, yeah, that's tough. That's tough. But Instagram gotta go.
Oh man, I would say Facebook has to go. Only because I don't spend that much time on Facebook, but I should. I neglect Facebook the most at all of those platforms, but there's a lot of opportunity on Facebook as well.
Yeah. And I don't use Facebook. Like I don't use my personal Facebook at all. I get on the no, it's the Popo and mess around every now and then, post whatever. But I do use Insta. That's tough.
Bruh. I know. I wish Billy was here. Bro, YouTube, let me tell you. I mean, I know you know this already. YouTube is insane. I went to a friend of mine's last week.
Yeah.
And when somebody says like they're a professional YouTuber, I used to be like, oh man, you don't take them serious. Bro, now
yeah, you make about $300,000-$400,000, and that's not even like on the high end.
A month.
Yeah, yep.
Like when somebody tells me they're a professional YouTuber, it was mind blowing. So yeah, I would have to get rid of Facebook for now. That could change. That could definitely change. But man, it's crazy, man. It's crazy to see where we're going right
Yeah.
now. So
Actually, I take it back. I'm getting rid of Facebook because they banned me
they did ban you. They did ban you.
for political reasons, and I ain't never publicly said this, but they banned me for political reasons. I ain't even post nothing. It was during election time, and then magically after the election, I got my account back. But don't
and
ban
they
me again.
and
Don't
they
ban me
banned you
again.
for a minute. They banned you for a minute.
Yes,
So
they did.
but hey, yo, we appreciate you guys as always, man. It's always a fun, time having you guys, especially in these comment sections. I mean, this is just I love the way we do our podcast now.
Yeah, it's cool.
I'm a continue to improve the internet quality, but do me a favor, just go make sure you guys hit the subscribe button, hit the like button, and go on to our iTunes or Spotify. Make sure you guys leave us a comment. We haven't had one in a while on there, so we want to know how we're doing. So with that being said, we love you guys. I'll tell you guys why I'm in Atlanta soon. And with that being said, we'll see y'all next week. Peace.
Peace.